If you got $100 to spend and you're willing to do it just for some visual mods and maybe a slight performance increase, getting rid of this water pump pulley right here, this is super heavy. I'm quite surprised. I'm going to get into the full install of the MMR aluminum water pump pulley, as well as titanium bolts, and what to watch out for, because you can't just use titanium bolts and Loctite, and we'll get into all that. This is the MMR water pump pulley for the 5.0 Mustang. Now I do have these titanium bolts right here, and I did pick these up off of Amazon. When you order the MMR pulley, typically whoever you buy it from, they have the option for you to get the titanium bolts. However, I bought my own off of Amazon, saved a couple bucks by doing that. The link down below in the description. But I want to talk about one thing before we get into the installation, because this is super important. Now, I pulled off one of the water pump pulley bolts. This is a factory one. I removed that just so that way I could verify the length and the pitch, make sure that I got the correct size bolts. Now, when you're using a titanium bolt and you want to use Loctite, like I have here, this blue, the Loctite will not work on the titanium bolt unless you have a primer on it. You need to put primer on the threads first and then put the Loctite on there, and that will allow it to secure. Now, since we're talking about the bolts and tightening them down, 22 foot-pounds is what MMR suggests. I got that off the internet, so hopefully that's correct, because that's what we're going to do today. So we'll get into the installation in just a second, but let's talk about why you want a water pump pulley. If you're looking at this and saying, wow, you just wasted a bunch of money. Well, no, it was like $100. So yes, I probably did waste $100, but here's the thing is visually it looks super nice. And when I add these titanium bolts onto there, it's going to look really nice under the hood. Technically, yeah, you are saving weight, and it is a rotational weight. So yes, technically you are helping. However, it's not going to be noticeable in my opinion, or in my assumption, because I haven't even installed it yet. But just want to get that out of the way. Now these are 10mm bolts, as well as these. So you're going to need 10mm socket. You're going to need a 15mm on a ratchet. That way you can remove the belt. Well, you don't need to remove the belt. You just need to pull the tension off of it. But let's go ahead and get into it. All right, right down in there, you can see the water pump pulley itself. You see how cool it looks with the dual throttle bodies and then the water pump pulley right there. That's why this is going to look super cool. The bolt is missing right from the front there, because that's one that I pulled off in order to compare to make sure that I got the correct titanium bolts. You can reuse those factory bolts, not a problem, but I just felt it would look nicer with the titanium. So now down there you can see my 15mm ratchet on the tensioner. What you want to do first is break these 10mm bolts loose. Since you have the tension on the belt right there, it's going to be holding the pulley, and you're able to crack those loose. And then what we want to do is rotate this down towards the passenger side like this, and once you relieve the tension off of that, you're going to use your other free hand that's not holding a camera and pull the belt off of the pulley, and that way we can get access to the pulley without having extra tension on it. You can see right there with the belt free. Go ahead and just pull that off, and now since we already loosened these up, you can remove these one by one by hand. Set that one there. Now I'm just leaving the ratchet there because we're going to end up using it again anyway. So now I can pull this pulley off, and there's our pulley. This is the comparison of the two. Obviously this one is way nicer. This one is actually really heavy. I'm super surprised at how heavy that is. So this is going to make a nice addition, but you can see the difference visually. Super cool. All right, don't laugh, but I have. So here's our stock pulley coming in at 731 grams. Let's add the bolts. 772 grams for the stock pulley. Let's go ahead and see what that comes out to be. 1 pound, 11 ounces. All right, back to zero. Let's go ahead and put on the MMR pulley. We've got 12.8 ounces. Let's add the bolts. 13.4 ounces. See what that comes out to be in grams. 380 grams. That's a significant difference in rotating mass. I'm actually surprised that there's that much of a difference. Now let's get back to installing. First thing I'm going to do is just set this into place. All right, so we have our Loctite primer, and I'm just going to add a little bit onto the threads. You do it on the first half. That's actually quite a bit. But we're going to be okay. And then on the other side of the threads is where you add the blue Loctite. And there we go. And then we can go ahead and thread that on. Now when you thread it in, the primer will mix. Now I'm tightening that down all the way by hand, and then we'll go ahead and do the next bolt. Third bolt. Now again, you only need to use the primer for titanium bolts. Any other bolts, you don't need to do that. You just need to use your blue Loctite. If you choose to use red, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get off. Blue is the way to go on this, in my opinion. All right, so I tighten those down by my fingers. I'm going to go ahead and remove these so that way we don't make a big mess. All right, now again, these are not tight yet, but what I'm gonna do is get this belt back into place. All right, now I know I blocked the camera a little bit there, but need my angles. We need a little bit of strength. Now what we want to do is tighten those down to 22 foot-pounds. Don't laugh at my cheap torque wrench. All right, there we go. 22 foot-pounds, we are done. And there's our finished product. I'm definitely happy with that. It was about $110. I got $10 into the bolts and then however much I spent on the Loctite stuff. But definitely no complaints there. Achieved exactly what I was after, which is when you pop the hood, you can see that pulley dead center, just like that. Those titanium bolts really, really sparkle in the light. Super awesome. If it does give me any performance gain, it's just a bonus in my opinion. But the looks, that's why we do it. We buy parts for looks a lot of the time, don't we? All right, what do you think we should do next? This car is pretty cool so far. We got a lot more to do. Stay tuned for more.